Well, welcome back to the Pierce Dispatch, everybody. We are joined once again by Albuquerque Fire Rescue, and I am here with the logistics captain, Brandon Sauer. Thank you for joining me.
Happy to be here.
And we are going to speak with not just you, but another representative from your department too in this episode, so listeners can hear from different perspectives. But this topic we're going to cover is really the full life cycle of an apparatus. We're going to start with budgeting and the procurement, and then we're going to dive into service and maintenance. So, my first question for you is, how long have you been a firefighter on
So
AFR?
so I've been with Albuquerque Fire Rescue for 22 years now.
All right. Did you always serve on that department?
Yes.
All
Yeah, I've
right.
been with them my whole career.
All right.
Yeah.
Did you think you were gonna be a logistics captain?
No.
What got you interested in logistics?
You know what? I think just being on the trucks, riding them every day, making sure that they're ready for use, ready to deploy for the citizens of Albuquerque, and making them the best trucks they can for the people who use them every day.
Absolutely. What are some of the primary ways that a fire department can go about procuring an apparatus?
Yeah, it's can be quite a lengthy process, but there's some easy ways that departments can find creative ways to procure the fire apparatus. And so I think the biggest thing is finding contracts, reaching out to your local vendors, seeing if the local vendors have any contracts in place with other departments in the area, or a department can create their own contract with that manufacturer. There's also statewide pricing agreements that they can use. A lot of apparatus manufacturers have collaborative contracts with other states that departments can actually, what they call piggyback off of a contract. So they can use an existing contract that someone already has to use to get that apparatus and procure the equipment they need.
So, when it comes to piggybacking or exploring contracts in your area and talking to different departments, how do you go about that? That's a new concept for me. How do you even begin to learn about what contracting is like for an apparatus procurement?
Well, I think using your admin folks and your fiscal folks that are in your department already is a good first step. Reaching out to them, seeing what's already in place, having them give you some useful information on that. Also, other departments. You can reach out to other departments' fiscal staff. How did they get their apparatus? What contracts did they use? What are in place? I started in the logistics division just learning about contracts through just ordering equipment that's on the trucks and doing some research on my own. So that there's another way that people can find out about what's out there, contracts and stuff like that.
Sure. And an apparatus is no small addition to a fleet, especially when it comes to financially. So how can you go about funding an apparatus?
So there's a few pathways to find some funding for apparatus. I mean, one of the simplest ways is just through your own department, but sometimes the custom trucks can cost considerable amounts. A lot of departments can go to states to get capital outlay funds. You can go up to the state reps and tell them what you need, tell them what you're lacking, and they can appropriate funding to your department to get funds to get the trucks.
Certainly.
Yeah. There's also just different grants. One of the grants we use a SAFER grant. We use the HUD grants also to get pockets of money to use to purchase apparatus.
How does that work with grants? Do you have to apply for them?
So yeah, there's an application process, and a lot of the grants, they're specifically for emergency equipment or apparatus specific grants that you can use as well.
Mhm.
Some of the other sources that we use is the state fire fund, and that's a considerable amount of money that the state gives to us every year that we can use pretty much for anything fire related. So there's a lot of funds we funnel over for apparatus from there.
Yeah, certainly. It's great to hear that the state and your community is supporting you. When we have customers in, a lot of them, especially, are mentioning ways like, "How did you buy this apparatus?" I'll ask, and they'll say, "Well, we had to get creative," and that's the common statement. So it's local funding, or it's the grants you talked about, or hosting community events just to get people more involved and engaged. And taxpayers' money, I know that's a huge source for a lot of apparatus.
Yeah, that is a helpful source as well. Local city councilors can also, give them that information, talk to them, let them know that something is lacking in their district, and they may also give you funds to purchase apparatus as well.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's building those relationships with all those folks that really help departments get what they need.
Absolutely. So that segment's perfect for us into what is it like working with your local government? Do you have any tips or tricks, or what is it like to enhance those relationships?
So I think it's just information, meeting with them, talking to them about the needs of the department and what the department can do for the citizens on the streets out there and the people in those districts. That definitely helps the counselors understand and want to help and provide that better equipment and apparatus on the streets.
Yeah, and certainly a way to get buy-in I've seen and then great examples with fire departments, especially when they step up on social media. I know it's a modern way of engaging the communities, but even they're within the fire department, this is the status of our new build, or this is our exploration process. Hey, we just met up with this department to talk about our new apparatus builds. That type of stuff. I think that's beneficial as well.
Oh, it's hugely beneficial. Over the last few years, our PIO division and, who is led by, Jason Fair,
Shout out.
they have done shout out, absolutely. They have done a tremendous job getting that information out, showing the public what we do, what we have, and letting everyone know that, these new apparatus are coming in, they're beneficial to the community. It's a good thing.
So, what is the best way to involve firefighters, leadership into community members that you found with Albuquerque?
So I think one of the things that we do for the community standpoint is, we invite local community groups when those new trucks come in. We invite them down to the station for our push-in ceremony. We do that quite a bit with all the apparatus that come in. So that's one step in the right direction. Getting them out there, seeing the camaraderie that's around the station. People are excited about these trucks coming in, and the community can feel that from the department standpoint.
Sure.
To get firefighters and everybody involved at that level, I think it's getting them on committees to discuss and be a part of the actual process of building the truck, because that's really what we're here doing, is building the truck for the people who use it every day. So yeah, I'm the chair of the apparatus committee, and I've been up here quite a few times, and that's was one of my proponents, is getting people of every rank involved, being part of building the truck, because it's really for them.
One of my favorite elements of a push-in ceremony, I have to mention, is seeing the kiddos get so excited. That has to help with the recruitment standpoint too.
Oh, it's definitely helps with that as well. Yeah, getting everybody out there, getting them involved. It's a pretty big event. This last Ladder 17, yeah, we had quite a few people there. Yeah, so it was a good turnout.
All right, so Brandon, for departments who are beginning to explore the procurement of a fire apparatus, can you tell me any advice that you may have for them?
Well, I think what I recommend to departments is getting out, talking to other departments, seeing what they've purchased, seeing what routes they've taken, whether it's getting their own contract or using someone else's to piggyback off of, reaching out to your local dealerships, seeing where they have sold apparatus, talk to those folks, reach out to them, build relationships to get that information back to your department so you can follow the right chain and the quickest chain to get the trucks they need.
Certainly. Thank you for joining us, Brandon. I appreciate it. And now we're going to segment over to your fleet manager, Randy Bloomer.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so now we are joined in the second segment of this episode with the fleet manager, Randy Bloomer. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, so we are going to talk a little bit about the second half of owning an apparatus, and that is the service and maintenance. And so when an apparatus is procured and put into service, there's a lot that goes into maintaining that in service for a long time. But can we talk about the beginning steps of how do you even know when it's time to procure an apparatus?
Well, to start off with, you have to have a replacement plan. And we have a very strict replacement plan. It's broken up by all the different engines, the ladders, the brush trucks, because each one of the trucks have different life expectancy. So, for example, our engines are on an 8-year replacement plan, 8-year first out service, and then we put them into reserve for 10 years. And then pretty much by the end of that 18 years, it's at the end of its life service. So starting off with a good replacement plan and following that through really goes with the procurement.
Absolutely. So you talked about having the importance of having that plan right from the beginning. Are there any other best practices you would suggest right from the beginning, having established and planned out before you procure an apparatus?
Absolutely. When you look at the whole replacement plan, you have to look at the whole fleet. We have a lot of specialty vehicles. We, of course, have our pumpers and our ladders. And with them meeting different criteria, that's where you would want to look and see where you'd want to fit them into the replacement plan and and when to replace them. Because when you're talking about replacing pumpers, well, pumpers are almost half the cost of a ladder. So, it drives when you're looking for procurement, the money that you're asking for is a lot.
Okay. So once an apparatus is procured and it's in service, how can you best manage it throughout the life cycle?
Okay. The best way is to get off to a good start. And we have our best practices is that we come up here and we start right out of the box when it's brand new. There's nothing like looking at a brand new apparatus, having everybody involved because you'll always have that vision in your mind of what the truck looked like brand new. And then once the truck does get back to our department, we go ahead and we do an inspection, an in-service checklist on it. We also do things like a minor PM to it. We get everything ready to put that truck in service. And doing that, getting that truck off to its best start right away, I have found in my career keeps the truck in service long and allows us to get that longevity out of that truck. That's what we're looking for. We're looking to get the lifespan out of that truck, and it has worked.
Yeah, certainly. So are there any routines that you have, like a weekly check? What is keeping it in service?
Well, what is keeping it in service is a combination of things. It's us on the maintenance side that's keeping it in service, and it's the firefighters who are checking the truck every single day. So when the truck goes into service and they check the truck every day, they're reporting the deficiencies back to me, which I can address. The trucks are on a maintenance plan. That's another part of that works in conjunction with the replacement plan, sticking to the maintenance on the truck and making sure that we're doing our oil changes on our time. We're doing our pump tests on time, our ladder tests on time, and going through and checking the truck and fixing all the deficiencies that come up really keeps the truck in service uh, for its life. It meets markers. A truck will meet its markers, as I call it, maybe at 10,000 miles or 20,000 miles, where you're going to do a little bit more maintenance to the truck because it's used a little more than normally. But if you take care of that and you keep to the plan, that truck you should be able to get its life expectancy out of that truck.
Do you ever do moves of apparatus to different stations based on the longevity of them?
Yes, we do. We don't move the fleet around. Generally, with all the data that we collect, because we collect a lot of data on the trucks, and that data really is what drives our replacement plan. It drives our maintenance plan. With that data, we found that the trucks really accrue the hours and the mileage all across the city in the same respect. So moving them around while they're first out doesn't really get anything out of that. But there are occasions where we will take a truck and we will move it to another station once a new truck gets in its place, maybe to extend a little more life out of that truck. I believe that, the trucks, once they're in service, that we should be getting that return on that truck. We pay a lot for the trucks and to run it through its life. And we're trying to get that. I think that's what the end goal is when we purchase a truck, we want to take it, we want to put it in service, we want it to operate, we want to service it, and we want to use its expected life.
Is there a strategy at deciding where it goes, which station it goes to, a brand new one?
Well, there's a couple different thoughts on that, but we have found that following the replacement plan, from replacing the oldest truck first and continuing on, that has worked.
So, when specs change on an apparatus to best meet the needs of the fire department, how does fleet maintenance react to that to best serve?
Well, the first thing we look at is what we have, what products we're using, what manufacturers we're using. And if the department decides that we have to add a new system in or change the design of the truck and all that, through the apparatus spec committee, we all get together and we all talk about it. And they may want, say, a new foam system. Well, if the manufacturer that we at Fleet Maintenance are familiar with and that we have training on, then we would steer them in the direction of working with that manufacturer, being that we have the relationship, we have the training. And I feel that it's my job that when these changes come about to help guide the spec committee and the fire department in an area that we're used to dealing with, that we're trained with, so that when that we do see that change and we do see that equipment on the truck, that we're sort of ready for it. And if we're not ready for it, we know where to go to get the resources to be able to service and to repair it.
Right. So, from the fleet maintenance perspective, do you have any advice for other departments or best practices you would like to share?
I would say that there's a few best practices that and advice that I could give. First of all, is to definitely have good communications with everyone from the fire chief on down. Everybody has to work together. AFR is successful with its fleet maintenance program because of the spec committee, the fire chief, and everybody that's involved in the procurement and the purchasing of that vehicle. We all work together and everybody listens to each other and respects everybody's position. And the product that comes out is truly great across the board for everybody. Now, once that truck gets in service, a good best practice is to get it off on the right foot. I believe that a lot of hard work goes into getting an apparatus. And once it goes into service, you can't forget about that apparatus. There's still more work to be done. And keeping that work going through and keeping those services up and keeping to a plan, was what I think keeps the longevity in the truck and also keeps the truck in service more than it's out of service.
Randy, can you tell me about the fleet size in Albuquerque Fire Rescue?
Sure. Albuquerque Fire Rescue is very big. We have 23 engines, we have 22 rescues, we have 8 ladder trucks with a ton of support vehicles, command vehicles, staff vehicles. The fleet size is probably around 300 vehicles, and we service them all at the fleet maintenance.
So, with a fleet that size, how do you sustain that?
Sustainability is the key. Managing a fleet that is that size, you have to have, and I go back to that replacement plan. It wasn't always like that years and years ago, but with taking data and doing a replacement plan and following that through and being supported with that, we were able to replace the vehicles and sustain the fleet. In today's day, we have some order time that we issues, and with that, you have to be proactive and you have to be thinking. So trucks that we're looking at ordering today, we know will not be in for 3 or 4 years. So you got to kind of get a jump on it. When this started back several years ago, we put together the replacement plan, enacted it, kept to it, and that is why we are able to catch up and sustain the fleet and keep going forward. We are up to about 2029, 2030 now with orders, and we need to keep going forward. And you have to stick with that as the times change with different things to keep the fleet sustained.
So, you told me you have a very robust fleet replacement program. How are you getting 20 years out of your apparatus?
Well, we're getting 20 years out of their apparatus because we're starting with the best. The administration and the fire department supports by Pierce. We've been a Pierce fleet since 2004, and we still have 2006s and even 01s on the road. So I believe that buying the best at the start, although maybe a little expensive, but you're putting a lot into the truck at the beginning to get you that 20 years at the end. Buying a well quality product, the best that you can buy, I believe, and servicing the best that you can and putting all those components together will get you that 20-year or more life with the fleet.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.